Hey guys, this is going to be a quick walkthrough of the editor I've put together to manage the baked bytes files in excuse me, in different while it's late in different content packs. So anyways, we'll just go through really quick. It's a single executable here. It's .NET. Uh, I'll stick it somewhere on the web. You guys can try it out. First thing you're going to need to do, though, is we need some libraries from the Shadowrun install itself. So wherever you have Shadowrun installed, I've got it in Steam here. We're going to pop into Steam, Apps, Common, Shadowrun. And it's just going to be in your Manage folder, and you need to grab the proto-buf DLL, as well as the data transfer objects and the serializer. And we'll just copy those guys in there. Once they're copied, you'll be able to run the program. And this is pretty straightforward. Click on Open Manifest and go find one of your manifest files. With the three that come with the program, at least, they're in Content Packs, Shadowrun Data, Streaming Assets, Content Packs. We'll just open Seattle for now. Data, find that manifest file. It'll load up. Everything's loaded. So the whole content pack now is in the content pack is in this tree structure here. My guess is I haven't used the editor much. My guess is this is a lot like what the editor presents to you. Just the editor probably does it much nicer than this. So what I'm going to do here, I guess I'll show really quickly creating a new item. So I'm going to drill down through the item definitions here. Here's all the gear defined in the Seattle pack. Excuse me. So what I'm going to do, I guess, is I'm going to take these awful wired reflexes and I'm going to build myself a new reflex system, move by wire, I guess. So I can right-click on this guy. And I don't want to. I'm not going to make one from scratch. My tool doesn't even support that. There's way too much data over here, if you've noticed. I'm just going to clone it. I'm going to make it like that one. You can see here where the file's going to end up. It's an item.bytes file. I'm just going to call it move by wire. Let's say. So now I have a move by wire.item. You'll see the properties are pretty much identical because it's a clone. Really quick on the property browser here. This is just the property grid out of .NET. So we can drill down into certain properties. If we have collections, we can view collections. That was a pretty boring one. So was that. Oh well. We'll find better ones later. First thing I'm going to want to do with my move by wire is I need to rename it inside the document here. So the ID needs to match. Capitalization isn't important, but needs to match the file or the game engine gets confused. Also, I'm going to jump into the UI rep here really quick. You notice my little save button turned pink because it's telling me my data's dirty and it needs saving. None of the properties I change in here will save. When we did a clone or a delete over here, that saves right away. But when we're actually changing properties, you have to click the save button for now, or it won't be saved. So instead of wired reflexes, we're going to call this an awesome move by wire system. And so again, icons and stuff. I mean, lots of properties here to play with. So I'm going to change the description. I don't want it to do all that weird stuff it was doing before. I'm going to say this gives us +2 quickness and +2 AP. That's just some clear text. Has nothing to do with anything. Just shows up in the shop like that. You'll see when we have enumerations, they're all pre-populating, right? So this is a cyberware. My character's poor, so for the sake of demoing, I'm going to call it a 1 yen. So we'll go through here. One of the things that I don't want this item to do, like the wired reflexes, where it had that dodge action that could dodge reloads and such, I'm going to take that out. So in order through the grid editor here to get rid of an object altogether. What I've done is I've added a couple buttons up here. And if you're on one of the complex data types that comes from the game, you'll be able to go on top of it and hit the little minus button. It'll warn you, hey, that's probably bad, but it's not that bad. And now that object's gone. If you get rid of the wrong complex objects, the game will throw null reference exceptions all over the place, so make sure you know what you're doing when you do that. You can't do it to anything, so here's a primitive type. I'm going to say, hey, you know what, that primitive can't be cleared, whatever. Say, just since I'm here, if you wanted to add a complex type back in, again, you'll notice that everything's gone. So if I have it highlighted, I hit the plus, well, it'll go and it'll use an activator to create that. And I'm going to get rid of that anyways. Now, if you recall in my description, I said we're going to do +2 quickness and +2 AP. So what I'm going to need to do is find, I want this to happen just by having the cyberware equipped. So the equip status effects complex type. And so in here we have an example now finally of, well, there's a bunch of properties, but this one here are modification to stats we want to deal with. So we click that, it brings up another little editor here to show us all the modifications. So when this is equipped, we get -2, and let me drag that out, we get -2 on essence, +1 on speed. I don't want that, so I'm going to actually remove the speed one. Let's add an attribute for quickness, and I want to give us 2 quickness. Oops, let's add another one. I didn't actually click OK there, because I also want action points. So I'd like 2 action points out of this here. So now we have, and pencil and paper says that move by wire is very expensive, so we'll throw a -3 there on essence, 2 on quickness. And if anybody's curious, the reason it's -3 is because that's a floating point value. Essence is decimal values. Stats are all integers. But anyways, 2 extra quickness, 2 extra action points. Looks good. We hit OK. This thing is all cleaned up now. I'm pretty happy with it. So we'll click save. You could always come back and do more work with it later. So now that's baked back into the right into the bytes files, right into the big files. However, if you've used the editor at all, you know that that just won't magically show up. We actually have to add it to our vendors. I'm going to add it to the doctor, which is where all the cyberware is. So instead of being an item def, I'm going to pop over into equipment sheets and find the equipment sheet for the doctor merchant, the high-end doctor merchant, because I think my save is pretty near the end. Again, we have a little collection here. Hit the button. This is all the gear, dock wagons, and health packs, and that sort of stuff. It's interesting, they actually have one each. But anyways, just click an add button, and we'll put our move by wire in there. We hit OK, hit save, and that's it. So now if I pop over to Deadman's Switch, and we have to load or restart or something, we have to do something to trigger the engine to reload its files for the level. It only does that at the loading screen right here. That's what it's bringing in. There's all those bytes files. And it's taking its sweet time. There we go. So I'm gonna, wow. Computer doesn't like recording. And I'll run over here. Oh, before I talk to that person, what I should show you is you'll see I have 3 action points here and a quickness of 3 and an essence of 5. I'm going to talk to this lovely lady here and take a look at her cyberware and see our awesome move-by-wire system. And I'll just add that in. It shows up over there. You can see our +2s, body, essence 3, cost 1. Install that bad boy. and you'll see now my action pool's up to 5, as is my quickness. My essence has dropped down to 2, and I have some very sexy sat4 over here. So that gives you a bit of an idea of how the editor works in a nutshell. I will really quickly here go over just a couple of the more advanced things that you might end up running into. Not too much to deal with. What I will say, we've got a help menu here. If you're ever interested in where your configuration is, it's off in your local data somewhere. Windows does that, not me. So I apologize. I have 2 backup systems that are active in this. By default, I've enabled a backup set, and then we have these in-place backups. I'm not very happy with either of these yet, and I think I'm going to work some more on it. But in a nutshell, the enable backup sets, what it will do is every time you open a manifest, it'll start a set point or a checkpoint or whatever you want to call it. And the first time you start to edit files, it'll copy backups of those original files into the backup location, which is, again, it's in app data roaming, digital pigeon, SSRR, blah, blah, blah. You can read it. So you can always go back into there and grab their timestamp. They're in timestamp folders, and you can grab files any point in time. Again, it's important to note it'll only back it up the first time you save it per session. So that way, if you're working on a file and you save it 9 times, it's not saving all 8 iterations. It's saving the original snapshot. Next time you open the manifest again, it will your saves will go to another set, so both will be preserved. The enable and place backups, if that's turned on, and they can both be turned on together, all that's going to do is the enable in place backups. Every single time you click a save button or change the manifest or whatever, anytime you're making a file system change, it just right in place, right beside that file, it's going to create another one with a timestamp attached to its name, so you can work through all those revisions of files if you need to. This has worked for me so far. When the file or when the manifest is open, the editor's job is to go through for each of these types of data and figure out what they map back to, right? So that is managed over here in our mappings. These are all our different types that are mapped, and what I'm going to do here is I will remove the item mapping. So that would be the item.bytes files. We'll remove that. Now when I open our manifest again, it's going to pop up with an issue. It's going to say, hey guy, I came into this adept combat vest item.bytes and I don't know how to map it. What should I do? So we have a couple options. We can skip it, but it's going to go through every one of these items. It's not going to know them, and it's not going to load them into our tree. We can add them into our ignore list. So this is air barrier 3. I'm going to add that to the ignore. So if I load this up again, it won't ask me again, but it's still not going to load it. It's just going to auto skip. Ideally, what we need to do, if there's no mapping type associated, is we have to add a mapping type rule. This isn't that tough. Based on the file name, it figures out this is an item.bytes file. I've got a little bit of a UI squish here. I'll fix that before I release it. So what we have here on the left side is all the different types of serializable data that we've pulled out of the DTOs. And on the right, we have a sample attempt of trying to parse that data. So you'll notice I've clicked these, nothing shows up because it's not even parsable. If I go and look at, we'll just grab entity. Right, so it sort of can parse an item bytes into an entity, but we can look here really quick and we can tell that something's messed up. And I added that in to sort of help with some of the more complex types when I was mapping through the first time to figure out which ones were which. So this was a item entity, so let's actually an item definition. And you see now, oh, look at that, it all lines up and is happy and stuff. So we'll add that mapping in. It'll load up the rest. Now, and that's preserved, so if I open it again, it works again. If you recall, I did add some items to the ignore list, and that was there in case there was ever some corrupt files or extra files that I didn't work with. I didn't want the whole editor to be hung out to dry. So if you recall, the air barrier 3, 4, and 5 are here, and we've ignored 3, so it doesn't even show up anymore, even though we have the mapping right as in an ignore list. So you can manage your ignore list from here too. You can see air barrier 3 was here, so we'll just remove it from the list. And back to item definitions. And air barrier 3 is shown up again. You know what? That's about it. Hopefully there's something useful in here, guys. Like I say, I haven't even used the editor that much yet, so I don't know how much of this I've just redone a shitty job of what we could already do from the editor or whatever. But I know I can run through this and add item after item after item very, very quick. So it's been useful for me so far. Let me know. Any feedback's good. If there's something that if this is borderline useful and we could do something to put over the edge to true usefulness, let me know. This is the kind of stuff I like to do. It's what I do for a living. So mucking with data. Okay, guys, it's really late, so I'm gonna post this up and talk to you later. Okay, bye.